34,000 years ago, in what is now Russia, two boys were buried head to head in a single long grave. They were maybe 10 and 12 years old, and someone had gone to almost unimaginable trouble for them. Their bodies were covered in more than 10,000 beads, each one carved by hand from mammoth ivory. There were ivory spears laid beside them, including one straightened mammoth tusk nearly 2.5 meters long, which should be physically impossible, and is. There were carved animals, pierced fox teeth, whole worlds of effort. Archaeologists did the math on those beads. To make everything in that grave, someone spent something like 10,000 hours of work. 10,000 hours for two dead children, in a world where every daylight hour was supposed to go towards staying alive. And here's the detail that really lands. Those kids were sent off with more than the grown man buried nearby. Nobody did this because they had to. You do not need a single ivory bead to survive the Ice Age. So what is this whole video really asking? It's this: why did humans start caring for their dead at all? And what does the way we buried them tell us about the exact moment we became us? Because a grave is a strange thing when you think about it. It's the first hard evidence in the entire record of humans doing something for no survival reason whatsoever. Let's start at the very beginning of it. Push back far enough, before our own species was really running the show, and you hit the most argued over graves in all of archaeology. In Shanidar Cave in Iraq, a Neanderthal man was found surrounded by clumps of ancient pollen. For decades, the story was beautiful. The flower burial, Neanderthals laying flowers on their dead 60,000 years ago. I'll be honest with you, a lot of scientists now think a burrowing rodent dragged those flowers in, not a mourner. The flowers might be a myth, but, and this is the part that survives the argument, the body is still there, placed, deliberate, sheltered. Whether or not there were flowers, someone chose not to just leave him where he fell. Then it gets stranger. Deep in a South African cave system called Rising Star, we found the bones of a small-brained human cousin, Homo naledi, in a chamber so hard to reach you have to squeeze through gaps barely wide enough for a shoulder. Some researchers argue they were carried down there on purpose. Others aren't convinced at all. That fight is still going. And that's the honest state of the earliest evidence. Half of it is a body in the ground, and the other half is scientists politely trying to strangle each other over what it means. But by the time you reach our own species, the doubt disappears. Because we didn't just bury people. We started sending them somewhere. This is the leap. This is the one that matters. At some point, humans stopped simply putting a body in the ground and started putting things in with it. Tools, food, beads, weapons, ochre, red iron pigment, poured over the dead until the grave looked like it was bleeding or glowing, depending on how you want to see it. And you don't pack a bag for someone who has gone nowhere. Think about what a grave full of gifts actually means. It means the people standing over that pit believed or hoped that the person was still going to be somewhere. That death wasn't a full stop, it was a door. That there was a later, even for the dead. That is the invention of the future tense, carved into the ground. It's belief in an afterlife, yes, but underneath that, it's something even bigger, the ability to imagine a world you cannot see and will never visit. The same mental muscle that lets you plan next winter is the one that lets you picture your grandmother somewhere warm. Those 10,000 hours of ivory beads suddenly make a different kind of sense. That wasn't waste. That was a species saying out loud, in the most expensive language it had, "You still matter, and you're going somewhere, and we're sending you properly." Now, side note, I'm not doing the Egyptians today. The mummies, the pyramids, the whole industrial afterlife machine. What I want here is the quieter, weirder, more human stuff that came long before. In some of the earliest farming towns, Jericho, Çatalhöyük, people buried their dead beneath the floors of their own houses, right under where they slept. The family didn't go to the dead stayed home. And then it gets genuinely uncanny. In places like Jericho, they would dig the skull back up, pack the face with plaster, and rebuild it, cheekbones, a nose, sometimes shells pressed in for eyes. A portrait of the dead, made from the dead, kept on a shelf, talked to most likely. We find that eerie. To them, it was love. It was granddad still in the room. 9,000 years ago, they had already invented the thing you do when you keep your mother's photo on the mantelpiece. They just did it with the actual skull because that was the technology they had. Your family group chat that won't delete the messages from someone who's gone? Same instinct, slightly less plaster. And in case all of this feels too grand, too ceremonial, let me leave you with the smallest grave I know. 12,000 years ago, at a place called Ain Malaha, an elderly woman was buried, and curled up beside her, under her hand, was a puppy. Her fingers were resting on it. There's no empire in that. No pyramid, no ivory, no theology. It's just a person who did not want to go into the dark alone, and someone who loved her enough to make sure she didn't. That's not ritual, that's grief. And grief, it turns out, is one of the oldest things we can prove a human ever felt. So, what did ancient humans do with their dead? Everything. And that's the point. They buried them and painted them in red and packed them lunches for a journey no one had ever come back from. They kept their skulls and rebuilt their faces. They tucked puppies under their hands. None of it kept anyone alive. Every hour of it was, in cold survival terms, wasted. And that is exactly why it's the most human thing in the whole record. The moment our ancestors started spending precious, irreplaceable time on people who could no longer give anything back, that's the moment you can point to and say, there, that's us. That's where love shows up in the fossil record. You will do a version of it too. A stone, a service, a photo you can't put in a drawer. The same ache that put 10,000 hours of ivory into a child's grave is the same ache you'll feel one day. It hasn't changed at all. 34,000 years, and we are still standing at the edge of the same grave, refusing to just walk away. Same animal, better lighting. Next time, the thing that was waiting in that dark for all of them. Why ancient humans were so afraid of the night, and how one discovery changed everything. That one's coming soon. Subscribe.